Number 10, Ons Jabeur. Number 9, Caroline Garcia. Number 8, Maria Sakkari. Number 7, Marketa Vondroushova. Number 6, Elina Svitolina. Number 5, Jessica Pegula. Number 4, Coco Gauff. Number 3, Arina Sabalenka. Number 2, Elena Rybakina. And number 1, Iga Swiatek. G'day everyone, and welcome to WTA Weekly Australian Open preview. And we are live here with my good friend, Mr. Andre Rolenberg. Andre, how are you doing? It's great to be doing this again. After reviewing a match last time, we're now going to be looking ahead to exciting things in Australia.
The classic two contents in tennis, right? Review, preview. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm doing really, really great. The Australian Open is it's my favorite Grand Slam of the year. Every year I say that, and every year around Roland Garros, Wimbledon, I change my mind. But it's really lovely to be here. And the WTA is in a great position. It's extremely exciting, even with so much dominance and like so many great results. It's still probably the toughest tour to pick a winner from. So exciting times.
Okay, that's an interesting thing to say. Toughest tour to pick a winner from, because I think the status we are in now is, I think it's very hard to imagine. Well, it's possible. I think it would be a surprise if the champion came from outside the top 4 seeds. Would you say that?
I would say so, but I think that even between these 4 top seeds, there can be surprises. It's not like I'd say that the top 4 seeds are much more closer in how they play against each other, and their matches, even though it's like stabilizing right now with like Iga Swiatek and Rybakina and Sabalenka especially up top, and I think it and obviously Coco Gauff, it's still sort of, you can kind of expect them to be in a battle, and I think instead of, like, say for example, a top 4 Novak Djokovic is king of Australia, it is still very hard to pick anybody like other than Djokovic. Whereas for the WTA, is still a little bit of I'm not super 100% sure that Iga Swiatek is the massive, absolutely is Iga Swiatek against the field, or is the top 3 against the top 2, 3, 4 against Swiatek. So yeah, I do feel like it would be a surprise to be at 1 against those 4. Once you get to those 4, who's the winner?
Yeah, exactly. I think I would agree with that situation, and you're right. Like, it's not necessarily a safe, like a slam dunk, which of these are going to win, and how it. Like, I think any matches between any of the 4 of them could go in a number of different ways. I still think there's room for Coco to turn around the battle against Iga. There's room for Sabalenka to avenge the beatdown from Brisbane, the Brisbane beatdown with Elena Rybakina. There's room for Iga Swiatek to come back and get a win against Rybakina that she probably really, really wants. And obviously Sabalenka Swiatek literally goes a different way every time they play, more or less. I think they seem to swap wins all the time. Usually take it in turns when they're going up against each other. So it should be good. I think we're going to be spending a lot of this stream like going through the draw. So I guess before we start really going to I think before we start going like doing predictions like how the draw is going to go and like towards the back end of it, I think we'll save that for sort of nearer the end. We'll start at the beginning. At the very start of the show, you saw the shortened version of my power ranking, which I made pre-draw. Do you have any thoughts or reactions to my top 10 ahead of the Australian Open?
I think it's a pretty good top 10. I think Swiatek is your top power ranking, right?
Yeah.
It's still so hard for me to even though, like, obviously Swiatek is Swiatek and she's been playing extremely well as of lately, somehow even raising the bar every season. But it is a Grand Slam that she's never won. It's a Grand Slam, probably the one. Well, I guess like Wimbledon is the one that she's had the least bigger results and whatnot. But it does feel like it's a fast court as well. In Australia, it does feel like she would have like some trouble historically in this slam as well. Definitely getting better, but I don't know. I feel like if here's what I'm gonna say, and I think we've talked about that like in one of the live streams for one of the matches. I think when Coco Gauff was playing Elena Svitolina, I believe that I said Rybakina for me is like not as consistent for me to say that I know exactly what's gonna happen with her every time. But I feel like if Rybakina can find like the level of consistency, which saw her definitely like beat the crap out of Sabalenka in that final, 6-love, 6-3 was a really brutal score. I would not be afraid of putting her on top of my power rankings, but I think overall, it's a pretty good one. It's a pretty good picks.
Yeah. Rybakina went to the top of Miles's list, and to be fair, it was a real coin flip at the time between Rybakina and Swiatek. Actually, sort of since I did the power ranking, I've become more confident in it, especially with sort of. I'm not entirely sure whether Rybakina playing Adelaide was the smartest move. I think it might have killed a little bit of momentum. But I agree with you that if Rybakina pulls the consistency together and this level that she showed in Brisbane is going to be the norm, yes, she's scary, and I don't think anyone's stopping her, even Swiatek. Or it's going to be a cracking 3-set battle if they play each other in the semis, which I am more than happy to see. Speaking of cracking battles, let's start at the beginning of the draw. Let's start about the things that we know for sure about before we start speculating.
All right.
I put out a tweet earlier today, which basically I said that I am probably interested in 27 out of the 64 first round matches, although there are probably some highlights to be shown from. But what first round matches stand out for you, either as sort of must watch or I'm definitely checking the score to see if that gets interesting?
I definitely saw Rybakina Pliskova as an interesting one. I don't think I was aware that Pliskova wasn't going to be a seeded player for some reason. I kind of forgot what her ranking was, but yeah, she's a big server. It's tough when she's on. I still think that Rybakina should come out of this like with relatively untroubled, but it is a tough first round. The one that is very interesting, obviously you have like the one right up top, like Collins. What? Oh my gosh, Collins Kerber. Yeah, that's a very like wow. That is an interesting.
I do not know which way that's going to go. Really.
No, yeah, that's weird. And the one that I definitely don't think is going to be that enthralling, like it's not going to be like a big thriller of a match, but it's still interesting to check out is Kenin Swiatek. I think it's still going to be a relatively easy straight setter to Swiatek, but I do want to see like what Kenin is going to be able to come out with, and like maybe we're going to be very surprised about her level or not. I mean, there is a chance that this could be an interesting match. So
yeah, I think Kenin will make things tricky for Swiatek. I think people forget that first set they played in that Roland Garros final. Kenin came back at Swiatek and actually made it quite tight towards the end before Swiatek edged it out. Kind of turned it up a gear to finish it off, and then pulled away. Helped a little bit by Kenin being a bit injured, but Swiatek was by that point very much in control and doing what she does and just being a perfect front runner. But yeah, there was Swiatek went 3-love up. Kenin headed back to 3-all. It exchanged a couple of games. Then Swiatek served it out. So I think if it was a healthy Kenin, I think Kenin's got the guts to make Swiatek's life difficult for a set. But I'm kind of with you. I think it's especially finished Swiatek now. Probably does have an edge over Kenin, especially as I think someone did point this out to me on Twitter earlier, is that Kenin hasn't had great starts to the season. She's lost the last few matches. So, but we'll have to see. She's a bit patchy, but I'm expecting it to be an intriguing first set. I'm hoping it for it to be anyway. I think Kenin bringing it will make it an interesting watch.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, obviously, I don't know if you have on other things to say, but I have
Go on.
number 10 seed Biahad Maya versus Linda Fruhvirtova and Caroline Garcia versus Naomi Osaka are probably two high-profile matches in different ways. So yeah, it's gonna be cool to see.
Yeah, for sure. I think I was surprised you didn't say Garcia Osaka to start with. That is probably going to be. I mean, okay. Rybakina Pliskova, we're expecting Rybakina to win, but it's going to be a wonderful exhibition of big serving, flat hitting.
Yeah.
Garcia Osaka, I have no idea which way this is going to go because you've got Osaka who's a little bit rusty versus Garcia who seems to have got her mojo back but is leaking sets. Yeah, that one could literally go away, especially after we saw what happened with Osaka Pliskova in Brisbane. Yeah, that one I think is worth marking down as must-watch tennis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's from what I saw from Osaka, especially against the Pliskova match, was that she felt a little rusty, especially on the serve and defense, which is normal. I feel like for so long that she's been out, those are, from what I've observed, like probably the two most important things. Like, for example, when Federer came back on tour as well, those are the things that I was probably struggling the most to get, like to break serve, and to just play overall just defensively. And obviously Osaka is much younger than Federer was at his return, but at the same time I feel like it will depend a bit on like if Garcia can put her serving performance up to the level that she needs to. I think that's the way that she can cause the most trouble to Osaka.
Yeah, I think that's right. And Garcia on that return is if it's on, that's gonna turn it into a rally, and we'll have to see where it goes. From there, and maybe with Garcia being a little bit not being rusty versus Osaka being rusty, that might benefit her. On the other hand, if Osaka comes out bringing it and Garcia's level drops, it's gonna go with Osaka by the end. Peter's thinking, is that you suggesting that Rybakina is going to lose at some point? You don't think she's going to make the set? She might not make the semis. That's an interesting thought. Talk to me about Fruhvirtova Haddad Maia. What's made you pick that one out as a match to watch? Because I'm thinking Fruhvirtova's got the power maybe to push Haddad Maia back, but if Fruhvirtova's not firing, I could see Haddad Maia really grinding her down and it being fairly straightforward. But I can see the potential.
Yeah, I think it's just really that, like the potential for Fruhvirtova is a very young player. I think in a sense up and coming. Just it's going to be interesting to see like her against the top player right up there in the stage. She's probably not going to get like a huge stadium, like maybe like second or third show courts, but like I feel like it's going to be I think it could be interesting, like which version of Haddad Maia comes in as well. Like, is it going to be the grinding version, or is it going to be the super big forehand and big serve version? Like, I don't even know. I feel like it's just because in terms of defensiveness, if big aggressive players come up against like defensive players on fast courts, it could be a bit troublesome. But I do believe in Haddad Maia's potential. But I think it's especially, I do believe that Haddad Maia is going to come in through as the winner of that match. But I think is a good match to watch, at least for like future reference in terms of like where is Fruhvirtova going to go through in the rest of the season and her career. I think it could be a match that we look back on, I suppose.
There's a few matches like that because there's a fair few teenagers in the draw. You've got Brenda Fruhvirtova, who's playing Anna Bogdan. She's got an opportunity to win a Grand Slam main draw match at the age of 16. You've obviously got Miran Dreva, but she's kind of a proven quantity at this point in some ways. Playing Bernarda Pera, she's actually the favourite in that match, I would think. You've got Sarah Bayek, 17-year-old, playing Leila Fernandez in round one. I'm going to be watching that because I like Fernandez. Obviously, you're Canadian, or you're in Canada, so obviously we're going to be rooting for Fernandez on your side as well. But I'm interested to see what Bayek brings to that one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's Fernandez's best result in Australia. I'm not sure she went like too far. Maybe a
She's never
third
made
round at
second week.
best. What?
Yeah, she's never made the second week.
Definitely not. But she is seeded. She is in fact the 32nd seed, seed number 32 in the draw, which is just right by the skin of her teeth. She just made it. But it's going to be interesting for her to try to build some momentum over there. Like it's a qualifier player. Fernandez is good in terms of managing pressure. She's experienced on the big stage, even though she's very young. I think she's about 21 right now.
Yeah.
And she's a grinder as well. Like she doesn't really give up on her matches, so it could be the difference. Like if Baye comes in hot and starts like hitting hard, and I think she would need to really keep her foot on the accelerator all the time, on the gas all the time, for this match to go her way, or
Yeah.
find a way to make Fernandez's play extremely uncomfortable, which would be with a lot of slices and a lot of variety. So because Fernandez is a player that doesn't always generate power off of her own, but like necessarily mostly feeds of her opponent's power, even though she's an aggressive player. So if you just kind of feed her just like junk shots, I feel like it could be really it could be something bad for her. But I believe in Fernandez as well. I believe that her experience is gonna make her come through in the end.
Yeah, I think I'd back France's experience, and she's building a lot of confidence. You know, she ended the year really, really strongly, with obviously titles in Asia, which are fast courts as well, and obviously winning BJK Cup with Canada, um, which was a fantastic moment, and obviously highlight for us on the channel. A couple of other, I just want to, before we wrap up on this bit, there's a few other first round matches that I've identified as potentially being interesting. Obviously, first night match on Margaret Court Arena is Magda Linette versus Caroline Wozniacki, which I think probably is going to be potentially quite messy, but I think I think that could be an intriguing matchup to watch. I'm definitely going to keep an eye on it. I'd say the other kind of blockbuster opening rounds that I'm looking at, Ludmila Samsonova against Amanda Anisimova. That's a big hitting battle.
Yeah.
That's happening kind of midway through day one on Sunday, like 4 a.m. my time, probably like 3 p.m. Australian time. But yeah, Samsonova and Anisimova, if they're both bringing it, that's going to be quite fun to watch. Given Samsonova seems a bit out of sorts, that even upset alert for a seed there.
Yeah, I mean, Anisimova has a really big game. Like if she's feeling confident, it's really good. Again, I do feel like Samsonova has a bit of more of like that grinding mentality. She's like a bit of a bit more of a never say die. I think Anisimova can get a little bit too, um, down on herself on court if things aren't going her way. So if that's not the case for her, if she can control her her emotions on court and just her mentality, I do think that it's a match with potential. Like there's no doubt about it. Like even though Anisimova isn't seated, I think she took a little bit of a break as well last year or the year prior. But yeah, she's been a top 20 player if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, it's a tough one. Like I would even argue that like ceiling wise, Anisimova's ceiling might be higher. So yeah.
And we saw how high a ceiling could be when she was 17. She got that French Open semi,
Exactly.
which is still a highlight of her career, crazily enough. The only other match I thought is probably going to be worth a watch because both players showing a bit of promise sort of during last year. Obviously, one of them on the comeback trail just got into the top 50 again. Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova is taking on Donna Vekic, which I think that could be a very fun match.
Yeah, it's one of those types of match that like the people who follow tennis and are really big fans are going to be excited to watch, but you know that the winner's not going to come out of that. So it's like unless something really big happens to especially Pavlyuchenko, I would say, because she's been a Grand Slam finalist a couple of times, but I think it's past the time for this to happen at this point. It's definitely going to be a big battle. It's going to be one of the ones that if you are in Australia, you should be heading to that court and watch that match.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and speaking of, we're talking about the winner's not going to come from there. Let's talk about the sections that maybe the winner might be coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So what I think we should do, I'd like to do, is let's take the 4 top seeds and just have a look at their potential progress to the semi-finals before we look at the title,
Mm-hmm.
and how likely we think they're going to get there. So let's start with probably the headline when the draw came out, at least in my world, but I think for a lot of other people as well. Iga Swiatek's draw. What the heck was that? She's potentially going to have to play. Oh gosh, she's got Ken in round 1, either Collins or Kerber in round 2. Round 3, she might get a little bit of respite, but even so, that's most likely Linda Noskova or Marie Bushkova. I'm leaning towards Noskova. That's going to be a big hitter on a fast surface. She's not going to like that. Then she's got Svitolina, who's in form and probably the only player outside the top 4 or 5 who has something who can who has form close to how the top 5 are performing. Then you've got a quarterfinal with either, well, if you go by seeding, it's Vondrushova. Might be unlikely. That it's more likely to be Azarenka or even the dreaded Yelena Ostapenko.
Yeah.
So yeah, tough draw on paper for Iga Swiatek.
Yeah, I definitely think that the player that Swiatek is really trying not to think about right now is Ostapenko, because it's the one that she's never beaten, I believe, which is insane. But I believe their head-to-head is 0 to Swiatek.
4-0 to Ostapenko, yeah.
4-0, yeah. It's a crazy head-to-head, and there's no way at least somebody in the team is thinking about the coach. Maybe they're not talking about it with Swiatek, but they're definitely thinking about it, because if worse comes to worse, they definitely have to figure something out. Yeah, I feel like everybody else is somebody that Swiatek can beat. She would probably, I would say that she will likely play Collins in the second round, should she get through Sofia Kenin, which is also a big hard hitter. But I think that at the current level right now, I just think that Swiatek is just too much for a lot of players right now, especially if they have been not at their best lately. If they're not carrying a lot of momentum, I think it's going to be very hard unless they come in really inspired against Swiatek. So I would tend to not be too scared about Swiatek's future. I would put my bet on her up until she faces at least Ostapenko. If she faces somebody else, if she faces Vondrousova, I think her way to going further is going to be even better. But I do think that Iga gets to the quarterfinals.
Okay, yeah, I think that's possible. Do you not think Svitolina is a potential threat?
I think Svitolina is a good player. She did, I believe, who beat did Svitolina beat Swiatek in Wimbledon last year?
Svitolina beat Swiatek at Wimbledon.
Exactly right. I do feel like Swiatek is just playing really well right now. She's riding a lot of momentum, especially from last year as well. She plays well on hard courts, so I do think that she's just got more power than Svitolina. I think in terms of defensively, she can match Svitolina. I think Svitolina is really going to have to come in playing a really, really good match to beat Swiatek. I just don't see it happening. I think it's good. It could be a threat. It could be a big match. Could be a 3-setter. But I do think that Swiatek is the big favorite on that one.
Yeah. Okay. I like the optimism. I would agree. Normally I would back Swiatek against Svitolina. I just think Svitolina is playing that one. She's got that whenever Swiatek on a fast surface, she is a threat. But I would agree with pretty much most matches Iga plays outside the top 4 and Ostapenko. she is the favorite in. Speaking of Ostapenko, how do you rate her chances of getting to a quarterfinal? She's had a decent last couple of weeks. She's quarterfinal in Brisbane, narrowly lost to Azarenka. And she's currently in the final in Adelaide, which is happening in a few hours. She'll be playing Kasatkina. Yeah. Do you? Yeah, but it's Yelena Ostapenko, and the dip after the peak can come quite quick. So, yeah, how confident are you that that it's going to be Ostapenko in the quarterfinals playing Iga Swiatek, or as some people are suggesting, Sofia Kenin or Elena Svitolina?
I mean, you gotta take it one day at a time with Ostapenko. You have no idea who's gonna come on court when it's Ostapenko playing. Yeah, man, I think that I see Azarenka as probably the biggest threat for her in that draw. Maybe Vondrousova as well could make it like really really tough. I think she probably will get through her draw, like Burrell and Tomljanovic, or Martic. I think she can take care of those two. But yeah, has a 3-0 losing head to head.
And it's a third round that she'd be playing Azarenka in. Yeah, I do have Vondrousova on upset alert, which is weird because I've got her as number 7 on my power ranking, but I made it before I saw how out of form she was. So yeah, I've got her on upset alert. I think she's going to make third round, but I could see her getting upset from that point. But yeah, Azarenka against Ostapenko would be a third round match, and given how tight and fiery that Brisbane match was, I think a lot of people will be up for that rematch.
Yeah, exactly. I think Azarenka is always a fighter. She's been trying to get to some of her best level like for a while now. Like she's reached only the US Open final lately. It was her biggest result. I guess she won a 1000 at some point. I forget exactly like what was some of her biggest results, but Cincinnati.
Yeah, she won Cincinnati in 2020.
Default from Osaka. By default from Osaka. But yeah, and she's also got a good history in Australia, and obviously a 2-time champion, 12 and 2012, 2013. So I would tend to exactly, yeah. So I would tend to say maybe the quarterfinalist is going to come between one of those two. Whoever wins that third round, I think, is going all the way to the quarters.
They would be the favorite on paper for sure.
Yeah. So that would be one of my two picks. I would tend to go with Ostapenko, but it's never easy. So
the problem with Ostapenko is on paper she can beat anyone.
Exactly.
But she doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah.
On any day she could wake up and lose to anyone.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
That's the problem. Like, breathtaking player to watch, fantastic player to watch. But just that reliability. So I would have her chance of making the quarterfinals 50-50, to be honest. I mean, you say that like, Birrell, I don't expect her to be a problem, but I could see Martic or Tomljanovic frustrating her enough.
Yeah.
In second round.
I see that, but like it's just that the Ostapenko sometimes she has a very high degree of self-belief. So I think that she would find herself maybe annoyed of losing if this happens. So I think she would pick up her level. That's my only thing. Maybe overall with time, I don't know if fitness is a concern. Doesn't really seem to be much of a concern, but maybe if she plays too many like grueling matches, any player really will come down. But I don't think that's gonna. I think early rounds. I'm not seeing this as much of an issue, although it could be. I do think that she wouldn't really want to, not be focused at a Grand Slam level to win at least a couple matches.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance of it. I think let's be honest, and let's face it, I've not seen her this consistent, but she's gone deep in 2 consecutive tournaments for a while, like back-to-back weeks. So, hey, why not? I mean, someone in the chat saying that, going deep in Adelaide might be a concern. I tend to agree. It's very rare for somebody who goes deep in the tournaments the week before to go super far in Australia, or any Grand Slam, but usually Australia, because of the heat and everything. Like the conditions are quite sapping. Yeah, I could see exhaustion maybe catching up by 4th round. I would apply that to Kasatkina as well in the final, Mertens and Navarro, who are in the other final in Hobart. But also we've seen scenarios where it's not affected people too much, but the winner of the title rarely comes from there.
Yeah.
Right. So we've talked a lot about Swiatek. Well, we talked a bit about Swiatek, and then we're talking more about Ostapenko. But that is the paradox of Ostapenko. So far, we're both in agreement that we're expecting Swiatek to make the quarterfinals. If Ostapenko's there, she's in trouble. What about number 3 seed, Elena Rybakina, who is in Swiatek's half? We've talked about her having a tough first round with Pliskova, which we would expect it to come through, but Pliskova could decide to cause her problems, and upset her. If Rybakina avoids the upset, how do you see her draw progressing past that point? Do you think she's going to make the semis?
The semis.
Well, say quarters. If you want to go same with Iga.
Yeah, I'll stick to the quarters right now, but I feel like I think it could be more or less smooth sailing. If especially I feel like if she comes to like maybe suppose that I can see her match going in like some sort of formula, like a 7-6, 6-3, or 6-2, and against Pliskova. I think Pliskova is still like a player who wants to do well and believes in her serve. It's not necessarily the most the player with the most variety, and I think Rybakina is just playing far too well right now. So I think it could be down to whether Pliskova can hold her serve throughout, and maybe take advantage of like most of the time how low the percentage of Rybakina's first serve is, or she would want it to be. So if she can take advantage of that, maybe we could see maybe a tiebreaker. But I do think that it's a match like this should put her like into kind of like into a groove in Melbourne, and I think it should be more or less smooth sailing from there. I don't really see many players who can truly trouble her. Although Kasatkina did play a superb match against Rybakina back in Montreal last year. It was a match that started at 11 p.m. and finished at 3 a.m. But still, it's those things. It's tough to tell like how they're gonna unfold. But I don't know. I feel like I would still pick Rybakina, maybe losing a few sets here and there, but still making it to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, Rybakina quarterfinals. Yeah, okay, so Rybakina. I mean, like I'm looking at her potential draw. Yeah, I think her second round against if she gets past Pliskova, Buxer or Blinkova, she should win both of those comfortably. Paulini in round 3. Paulini's a big hitter. May have got a confidence boost from United Cup. Could see her like maybe causing problems, but I don't think she takes more than a set off Rybakina. You're right. Kasatkina's the one in the 4th round that might be a real struggle, given how they played in Canada before. And that again depends on Rybakina's first serve, though, because Rybakina's first serve's working, then she is going to get past the Kasatkina. But I'm fairly confident Kasatkina's making the 4th round because I'm looking at Kasatkina's section. She's got a fairly soft section. So I would imagine Kasatkina's making 4th round unless exhaustion from Adelaide catches up with her. So maybe that's pretty open. So yeah, I'd agree with you. On balance, Rybakina gets there. Might be a couple of tricky opponents who take a set off her. But upset possibility, but not highly likely.
Yeah, and the only other few notions that I would put there, obviously, like we can't really forget Sloane Stevens, who could hit a purple patch and start playing extremely well, though she's a little bit far from Rybakina. She's up into the 4th round. And then we have all the way on the other side of this section, Emma Raducanu and Sorana Cirstea, who are players who, obviously, Emma Raducanu is a US Open champion. It depends on like which type of form she's in, mostly depending on her fitness. And Sorana Cirstea is one of those players that can kind of like just hit a good tournament every so often. But it's just kind of like my wild cards and just kind of like players to watch with the corner of an eye, just in a sense.
Stevens would be a potential 4th round opponent for Rybakina. Cirstea Raducanu would be
Quarterfinals, yeah.
If they can get through someone like Zhang Qinwen, who I think is a lot of people's dark horse this tournament.
True.
She didn't quite make the top 10 in my power rankings, but it seems to be making other people's, Miles and Biola. And the other option, and basically I think it's between Zhang and Pegula, who makes the quarterfinal against Rybakina.
Yeah, Pegula, it's a tough ask. I mean, if she does make it to the quarterfinals,
which she should on paper.
Yeah, on paper, yes. But at the same time, it's the same thing about like the quarterfinals barrier that she cannot really cross right now. So it remains to be seen, like whether she can make it past Rybakina if she makes it to the quarters. Don't really think so. I think it's gonna be Rybakina. People are also mentioning Ju in there, which is interesting player as well.
Yeah, she's a threat. I mean, obviously she likes it in this part of the world. Probably very familiar with the kind of conditions. Obviously a lot of fun player, really good personality. I think even Zhu in good form. I think Zhu would have to be playing very, very well to upset Pegula in round 3. I don't see Pegula losing before round 3, and I think she probably beats Zhu. I think the big threat for Pegula is going to be Zhang in round 4. If Zhang gets that far, obviously, because Zhang took Kruger in round 1. If Kruger hits a purple patch, maybe. Bolter, similar situation, would have to hit a purple patch. Cirstea, Raducanu in round 3. For Zhang, I think both players are not quite in the form enough to beat her. So yeah, I think Zhang Pegula is very likely for a 4th round, and I actually think Zhang's going to pull off the upset.
Yeah. I do think that Zhang should watch out, especially for Bolter right now, just because like she's been playing really well, like just over this past couple of weeks. So it's a player who could potentially just be feeling very, very well and just be able to, just trouble her. So it's just the types of player to like really be careful with, especially when you got them so early in the tournament.
That's plausible. I think Bolter's a plausible upset. For sure. And if Bolter did upset Zhang, then gosh, that's a 4th round on the cards potentially. Unless Raducanu's got something to say about it. Oh gosh, now I've got all the British tennis fans wanting a Bolter Raducanu round 3.
That's very true.
Because that's just going to be the dream. Yeah, I think that's probably our only hope for getting a break into the 2nd week of the Australian Open in either men's or the women's singles. Yeah. Okay, so that's Rybakina. Let's keep going down the draw in order. Agreeing with producer there, Raducanu is a dark horse. I think a question is just fitness and how her body lasts through the tournament. But I would love to see it. I would love to see her hit the ground running and be like, "Hey, I'm back."
I could see a 3rd round, yeah.
Yeah, get a 3rd. I mean, 3rd round is definitely makeable. I have her losing to Cirstea in round 2, but I also think that is a very winnable match for Raducanu. I'm not entirely sure that's the dark horse she wants to be, but never mind. And then Zhang. I would be interested to see how she dealt with someone like Zhang or Bolter in round 3. Bolter would probably be the one she prefer because that's a bit more of a winnable one than Zhang. But yeah, so number 4 seed, Coco Gauff. What are you making about Gauff's draw? How confident are you about her reaching the quarterfinals?
I'm fairly comfortable with her reaching the quarterfinals. Just based on her form and just like how well she's been like progressing, and just really just how quick her progression was, like especially like second half of last year. Like it was super fast, and she's she's in your power rankings as number 4.
4,
Yeah,
yeah.
there she is, and I think that's a really good way to put her there. And I think she believes that she belongs in there. I don't think she wants to be at least. She wants to be at least in the second week in this tournament. There's no way she doesn't want to reach at least like a fourth round or quarterfinals. Especially after such a good campaign in the US last year. So I think Coco Gauff is definitely going to own her section of the draw. I could see maybe obviously we have Osaka in here and the Osaka and Garcia in the fourth round path. We have Leila Fernandez into the third round, which could be very interesting matches. We need to see like what happens with if everybody gets there as well, especially for Fernandez. One player that's here that's kind of always a bit of like a wild card, like a is Alicia Parks. So she chooses to put all her balls in play and just hits as flat as always. And I do think it could be a bit troublesome for Fernandez. But if she can get there, I do think it's going to be a really, really interesting match between her and Goff. I would tend to think that Goff is definitely going to win this match, but you never really know. I think Fernandez is also, as you said, like going good on good momentum, but yeah, I would say Goff makes it to the fourth, and Fernandez stops at the third round.
I mean, that's what I've got as well.
Yeah.
What I will say is I really, really want that match to happen because that's going to be such a dynamic match. That kind of defense and counter punching from both athleticism would be incredible. I think that would have to be a fourth round, like a night match. And yeah, that would be. I really, really want that to happen because I just think that would be an amazing spectacle.
Yeah. I think it would be like it's one of those types of matches that I can see being something around like either 6-2, 6-2, or like 7-6, 4-6, 7-6. Like it's an it could be either like an absolute epic or Fernandez doesn't really show up and Goff can dominate it. But who knows? Yeah, I'm really excited about it. But this is definitely like in terms of like the actual quarter section, probably one of the most packed ones, I would say. It's got some really big names in here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're talking about like I'm talking about like Goff making. Before we get to sort of Goff's opponent in the quarters, I mean, you touched on the last 16. Like, it could be. Yeah, you're right. It could be Naomi Osaka. It could be Caroline Garcia, which is how the seeding would fall. It could be Anastasia Potapova. Like it's a fairly open, close fourth battle to get to that fourth round. But I would be interested in. I would be interested to see which it was. I think I'd back Goff to win against all of those people in the fourth. But that would be a competitive one. Obviously, the one that's going to be the one the organisers want is Osaka Goff, if anything, because it's a repeat of that. Was it 2020 match they played in the third round and Goff won it?
Either 2020 or 2021.
I think it was 2020. It was Osaka won in 2021.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was most of it in 2020.
Yeah. So yeah, 2020 third round, and yeah, I remember Goff making huge headlines for beating Osaka, and then obviously losing to eventual champion Sophia Kenin in the following match. So yeah, I think, and I'd be curious. I think that would be where Osaka's journey would end, probably. I think this slam's too soon for her to start winning it. But if this was the US Open, I would be calling that an upset alert.
On Osaka versus Goff?
Yeah.
Or...
if it was US Open and Goff had a season under her belt.
Yeah, I could see that.
But not now, not this year.
Not now, yeah.
Not the Australian Open.
I mean, it's so hard to tell. Like we only had like a sample size of 2 matches for Osaka right now.
Yeah.
Three matches tops. I believe. I don't remember how far she got, but
2 matches. Yeah, she beat Paul Patch in round 1 in straight sets, and then that 3-set.
Yeah.
So she could have won.
Yeah. So it's hard to say. It's not like I don't think her body is an issue. I think fitness is just a matter of like maybe match fitness, but not necessarily just because I think she's too young to be suffering like from like more than just just rustiness. So who knows? If Osaka shows up and beats Garcia, I think we could start believing. To be perfectly honest, she's a two-time champion in Australia. We know how big her game can be. So
Well,
whoever shows up in the first round, I think that's going to be the answer.
yeah, who makes the fourth round?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
I agree. I think that's what's going to happen. I think because if Garcia wins that one, that's going to give her a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
Okay, so you talk about packed quarter. Obviously, Goff is seeded to play Maria Sakkari.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know what Sakkari's recent history is with slams. She's got Hibino in round one. That would be a bit of a disaster if she lost to Hibino. No offense to Hibino, but I think Sakkari should win that. And
Hmm.
Hibino's got a lot of experience. Avanesian or Bai in round two. That could be been asking, particularly if it's an Avanesian, friend of the
Hmm.
show. John interviewed her in Berlin this year
Nice.
or last year. Or and this is just to get to the Sakkari, just to get to the fourth round, or Elise Mertens in round three, and we know what Elise Mertens is like in round three. Or was it round two she wasn't beaten in? There was a round of a Grand Slam like she went a long time without losing in.
Hmm.
Maybe it's round two, not round three. But yeah, Mertens I think could be a definite danger for Maria Sakkari. And then we're like, well, who else is in that mix? Suddenly, then you're looking on the other side, and you're looking at. I don't know if Magdalenette can get this far again. I think she had a good run last year. Caroline Wozniacki, maybe another Grand Slam fourth round. But the
Hmm.
one I'm really looking at is Beatrice Haddad-Maia.
Yeah.
And I think we mentioned her earlier. I think Haddad-Maia. Oh, by the way, yeah, you'll actually know the answer to this. So I've heard Renee Stubbs pronounce her name Haddad-Maia. Is that correct?
It's not incorrect. It's just like it's an accent thing. So for example, if it's as if like instead of saying Nick Carter, I say like how do I say your last name?
Carter.
Yeah, it's just an accent. It's as if you told me that me saying Nick Carter is wrong. it's
Fair.
it's like it's not. It's just an accent thing. So you can say Haddad Maya. Like it's okay. Like it's just because of where she's from. She will in Brazil. Like we don't have lingering consonants in the end unless it's an R or an S. So if a sentence ends, if a word like her, like Haddad Maya, ends in a D, we'll automatically kind of like add another vowel at the end. So it would be like Hadajimaya.
Okay.
So
That
that's
makes
that's
sense.
basically the reason why. But like it's just how she pronounces it based on accent. It's not
I mean,
it's not a
I don't know.
wrong or right thing.
I've not listened to Haddad Meyer's WTA profile, like where she pronounced her name, so I'll have to go and check it. That's just how
Hmm.
I've heard Renee Stubbs pronounce it.
Yeah.
So anyway, Haddad Meyer, however you want to pronounce it.
Yeah.
I think she's Goff's most likely quarterfinal opponent,
Mm. Yeah. I think so too.
which is going against my power ranking because I also put Sakkari at number 8, but because Haddad Meyer hasn't made last 16 before, and like power ranking is obviously based on who do I think was more likely to win the tournament. I
Mm.
expected them to be in the same section. So yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously her form's sketchy, so I don't know whose form's sketchier, hers or Sakkari's.
Who's Haddad Maya or Sakaris or
Yeah.
oh man, I do tend to think that Haddad Maya is playing a bit better than Sakari. I think just like overall consistency, she's just like I think it's a little slightly better. Like I think I know what to expect more from her than what I do from Sakari. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like Sakari could just basically get an upset at basically any point, which is weird. But
Jean, to answer your question, Haddad Meyer's draw. So she's got Linda Fravitova in round one,
yeah,
which we marked as one that's worth watching. She's then potentially got either Elena Korneva or the junior champion from last year, or a rematch with Sara Sorribes Tormo, like 2 weeks after the United Cup, and obviously that could be a marathon. Round 3, you're looking at most likely Wozniacki or Linette. I would go with Wozniacki. And then round 4 would be Sakkari or Mertens, probably.
Yeah. You don't see Kostyuk?
Maybe Kostyuk. Like, I could see it happening. I just don't think Kostyuk's consistent enough for me to back it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be for Kvitova, and she just she's made a Indian Wells 4th round before. She could upset Haddad Maia and make her way into the 4th round, and suddenly it's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a tough session of the draw in which I don't think anybody here is particularly strong in the sense that they're obviously all very strong, but they're in terms of current history and current momentum and other tournaments. Haddad Maia and Sakkari had good endings for their seasons last year, but it's kind of a bit up in the air, I would say, in this one. But I would say that I would be a bit surprised if I saw Sakkari making it past the quarterfinals.
Yeah, past the quarterfinals or to the quarterfinals.
Past it, yeah.
Yeah, same. I mean, to be honest, I think looking at this section, thinking about it, I think out of the 3 we've done so far, the 3 top seeds, Goff is probably the one I'm most confident about getting to the semis.
Me too, yeah.
Well, maybe apart from the next one we're going to do. I think someone else in the chat, Mertens former semi-finalist in Australia, maybe she could sneak into the quarters.
Yeah.
I don't want to rule her out, but Mertens is hard to back because she does seem to have a ceiling.
I mean, here's the thing, right?
Before.
Yeah. It's the idea here for me is I do think that Sakkari and Haddad Maia can get too conservative and too pushy in terms of their games. So that's a moment where I think Mertens can make it happen. So that's, I think, one of the big things to try and see what's happening during their matches. Is Sakkari just kind of barely making it through? Is Haddad Maia just barely making it through her matches, or are they really just dominating the proceedings and just winning? Because they're also both capable of doing that. So if the former is true, I can see by all means Mertens could make it to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I think it's plausible. I think it's plausible. Look, she, as I said, she's done it before. She's a competitive player, and she's in the section of the draw where it's doable for her. All right, so Aryna Sabalenka, number 2 seed, defending champion, probably has the softest draw out of the top 4. She's got Seidel, the 18-year-old from Germany, in the first round qualifier in round 1. Round 2 would be either Anna Bogdan or Brenda Kvitova, the sister of Linda, 16-year-old, and it's the 3rd Grand Slam draw. Probably in round 3, if you go by seeding, Lesia Shirenko, most likely. Masarov and Sasnovich, possibly, a really open section. And then round 4, you're looking at players like Samsonova, Anisimova. Samsonova by seeding. Anisimova is obviously upset alert. Pavlyuchenkova or Vekic. That's quite a contested section to get to the 4th round. But I don't see any of those upsetting Sabalenka, to be honest. I think Sabalenka's a fairly. Whereas Goff, you've got that question of if Fernandez plays well in round 3, she could pull off the upset. Sabalenka, there isn't any of that concerns with any potential opponents.
Not before the 4th round, at the very least. I think there is something to be said about whether Samsonova is she here? Yeah, Samsonova plays well. I think that's a possible thing to happen. But even still, I feel like it's definitely all of these matches are in Sabalenka's bracket for sure, up until the quarterfinals.
Quarterfinals, yeah.
Yeah.
And then quarterfinals is interesting because, like, whoever she plays there, I think the only person, her quarterfinals probably going to be by seeding Jabeur or Krejcikova. Neither of whom really, like, Jabeur hasn't done a warm up. Krejcikova played Adelaide and lost her first match. You've got Mira Andreeva in there, but she's not beaten the top 10 player yet. And I don't know if Jabeur is the player she would beat as her first one. I feel like Jabeur might have a bit too much for her at this stage in her career. And then you've got Wang Jinyu, Ekaterina Alexandrova might make it. I could see Alexandrova maybe putting something together, but she's only just made a second week for the first time in her career in which slam was it? Was it Wimbledon or it might have been Wimbledon or the US Open? So I think the only person from that section who I could see Sabalenka having trouble with in a quarterfinal would be Ons Jabeur, and on a hard court, that's not likely. Well, not as likely, I should say, actually, because Jabeur is a fantastic player. So she could definitely beat Sabalenka, but I think it would be harder for her to do that on a hard court compared to a grass or clay court.
Yeah. Alexandrova made it to the 4th round in Wimbledon last year.
Wimbledon, yeah.
Yeah. And Jabeur has been to the quarterfinal of the Australian Open last time in 2020. So, yeah. So
2020 was the last time Jabeur made a quarterfinals of the Australian, yeah. And obviously, recent, like, she's a US Open finals player. She's not bad on hard courts. I think she's a contender on hard courts. I think people often rule her out.
Yeah, but it's definitely I guess from that section of the draw, nobody's looking as strong, I guess, as Sabalenka in the entire quarter. So it's definitely going to we'll definitely have to see what Jabeur can come up with, and Krejcikova as well. Like how are they going to work on their form going into Melbourne? Is there going to be a difference? Is they going to play better? Is Jabeur going to like get back to her level of confidence and her level of fitness? She played well last year, but we'll see like how does that translate into the Grand Slam arena. So who knows? And Krejcikova, it's been a while that she hasn't kind of been up and down, mostly down and up, but it's all in a way just kind of like how the Kokogov one is, like, but it's even leaning stronger even to the Sabalenka side. I feel like Sabalenka is definitely the one that's like the more, consistent out of all these.
I can see a world where Krejcikova suddenly turns it on, makes the quarterfinals, and upsets Sabalenka. There is a universe where that happens. Just because obviously she did that in Dubai last year in the 1000. So it's plausible. And she's a Grand Slam champion. She could totally do it. And then she'd like, hey, remember me? I think we're just talking about the likelihood of that happening. But, tennis is a funny sport where someone could just turn it on at any given moment.
Yeah. How do you see a Palabadosa?
I mean, she started off. She lost her opening match. She lost her match in Adelaide, and she didn't look in. I didn't see the match. I didn't hear things like she was injured or anything like that. Badosa maybe, but she's in the mix with Townsend, who is also, I think, a contender maybe to make 4th round. She's playing Townsend in round 1, which is another first round match I would really want to see. And I think Townsend's just won a doubles title. She's confident. Badosa's still coming back. I think right now Badosa's losing to Townsend. If we're talking like Indian Wells first round, where Badosa's maybe got a couple of match wins under her belt, different story. But either that or she surprised all of us and is like, hey, I'm back. But I'm not sure that's likely right now.
Yeah.
It's hard to call. She's got the ability to.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it's all those players coming back and just kind of like trying to get in the groove as well. Like it's a bit in a way, like how I see Swiatek and Rybakina and even Goff is just like how they're just too much. They're just too established at the moment for 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 me to see something like this happen. I think there's always a chance that somebody will catch fire. There's a lot of really great players in the WTA, so it might happen, especially in a best of 3 format. If you can run away with it in 2 sets, it's less time for your opponent to mount a comeback. But yeah, I do think that at the moment, all of these women are just kind of really too hungry and too good for it.
I mean, look, let's face it, everyone in this draw is damn good.
Yeah.
And I mean, gone are the days where half the draw could win the title, but the depth in the WTA field is amazing. And I think there's going to be popcorn matches from start to finish throughout the whole tournament. I think we're going to do crystal ball time, end of the tournament. So we've obviously talked about what we think how we think the quarterfinals are going to match up. We think all of the top 4 seeds are going to make the quarters. I think you haven't necessarily nailed your colours to Mars on who they're going to be playing, whereas I have. I think you've got Swiatek, Ostapenko as one of them. Rybakina. I think I remember saying who I thought. I'm not sure who you thought, but who do you think Rybakina, Goff, and Sabalenka will be playing? The quarters.
I think Swiatek's going to be playing Ostapenko in the quarters.
Yeah.
I think Rybakina, will be playing. I think she's going to be playing Zhang in the quarters. I think Zhang's going to make it in Napagula. Goff, it's probably the toughest one right now to pick.
Yeah, very open.
Yeah, but I think Haddad Maya is going to make it to the quarters as well. And Sabalenka.
Sabalenka's opponent is hard.
Yeah, I'll probably put. I'm just gonna go like on the crystal ball style and just like Krejcikova. I think Krejcikova is gonna make it to the quarters.
Okay. I'm very similar to you. We've got 6 out of the 8 same. So I've basically I've actually made a spreadsheet and I've tracked the draw and how I think it's going to go, so I can plug it into TNS later for our predictions. Which I don't know if you're on, but you're welcome to join in. So I have Rybakina Zhang, I have Haddad Maya Goff, I have Jabeur playing Sabalenka in the quarters. I've gone massively left field for quarterfinal opponent for Swiatek. I've gone with Emma. I've gone with Emma Navarro.
Emma Navarro, wow, that's definitely unexpected.
Well, I thought Navarro's looking good. She's kind of rocketed away up the rankings. She's made the final in Hobart, which might play against her down the line. I don't know. But she's in form. She's got a tough opener against Wang Ju, so obviously she could lose that. But if she does get through it, I could see her upsetting Vondrousova. And then I think I put Navarro there because I'm 250-50 on Goff making Ostapenko making the quarters. Azarenka, again, similar situation. So I'm like, well, who am I more like? Who's likely to put off the upset? Navarro. So yeah, I've decided that that's going to be out on a limb. I'm willing to look like an idiot on this one.
This is the one this is the one that you pick, and if it is right, it's going to score more points than anybody on the draw.
Yeah, like, hey, called it. Gosh, I think I might win the thing if I put Navarro in the quarterfinals, and I'm right.
You might as well.
Yeah, for the competition's perspective, but I think it's plausible.
Yeah, anything can happen. I mean, there's always, I think, especially in women's tennis, like when you look up to the semifinals, there's always somebody who is not in. Well, not always, but very often there's somebody who's not in a top 10 seed. Very, very often you're gonna have like somebody 16th or like late 20s in the 20s in the seeds. So yeah, she could be one of them.
So we've obviously gone different directions, but more or less similar. And I think the outcomes are going to be similar. How likely do you think it's going to be it's a top 4 lockout in the semis?
Unlikely, I'd say. I feel like every time, top 4 is very strong, but even when you look at, like, and not to make too many comparisons as well, but even if you look at, like, the, um, top 4 between Djokovic, Murray, Nadal, Federer, that didn't happen that often even, and
No.
those are, like, the guys, and in our heads, it definitely happened a lot more often than it did. So, even though they're playing really well right now, I still think that, this top 4 is still, more prone for upsets, and I think particularly the semifinals, I would say that Swiatek is not gonna be there.
So you think Swiatek? So the 3 out of the 4 are going to make it, and the one who doesn't is Swiatek.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, Ashley has said that she think in the chat is backing Ella Seidel as her dark horse, who she's playing Sabalenka in her opening round. As 18-year-old German qualifier. I mean, if this is a time to announce yourself as a contender, that's one way of doing it. I've not watched her
Yep.
play before, but I did see a nice lob she played in her final qualifying match. So, yeah.
Miles said this is the strongest top 4 major that I can remember, and yeah, it's definitely true. It's these women are insanely talented.
And that's why I'm kind of going for a top 4 lockout, because whilst I agree with you that it's unlikely, because you're right, it didn't happen on the men's side when we had a locked out big 4 with Djokovic, Nadal, Federer, Murray 10 years ago. But I think I will probably predict it, because whilst there's lots of potential players who could upset it, there's no one out there that I'm like, that's definitely going to be an upset. Or I'm more than 40% confident there's going to be an upset.
Yeah.
30, 40, even 30%.
Yeah.
I would agree with you on Ostapenko. If it is Iga versus Ostapenko, that's going to be nerve-wracking for Iga fans. Especially since, the conditions will probably suit Ostapenko. I think Iga's playing well enough that she could just go, nah, I'm not losing 5th time. No one beats Iga Swiatek 5 times in a row. But I just don't think Ostapenko's making it that far, which is why I'm more willing to go top 4 lockout at this slam. I probably would be less reluctant to predict that at Roland Garros or Wimbledon. But here at the Australian Open in 2024, beginning of the year, I'm going to call top 4 lockout, because I think that's more likely based on their draws.
Yeah. I think just based on sheer number of matches.
Yeah.
I would say it's more likely than not that one of them is not there, but
then it's picking which one isn't going to make it, and
that's the hard part.
that's the problem.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, well, now I kind of have to pick it, because I have to predict someone's going to lose. I mean, the only other one I could think of is maybe Zhang upsets Rybakina.
I think that could happen.
Yeah, I'm looking at it going, actually, no, that could happen.
Yeah. Again, it's always so hard for me to predict when Rybakina is playing well or not. So it's just, I think she's gonna be there, but I wouldn't be shell shocked if she ended up losing.
Rybakina?
Yeah, Rybakina, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I guess then, if you think so, it's probably on back to probability. Ostapenko, Rybakina, Goff, Sabalenka in the semis. Ostapenko, Rybakina. I think Rybakina heavily favors that head-to-head.
Yeah.
If it's Ostapenko Zhang, that would be interesting. I think that could go either way.
That would be really interesting. Could you imagine Zhang in a final of a Grand Slam right now?
And who would she play?
I think Goff makes a consecutive Slam finals.
So do I. I think if Goff Sabalenka play each other, Sabalenka won't have been challenged enough. Goff will have been challenged, and I think Goff's confident And obviously Sabalenka seems to have this fifth match / semi-final problem against the big players right now. One she can reverse, but we're going to follow the current trend. Goff, I agree with you. Goff wins it. So are we saying it's Goff, Rybakina?
I'm saying Rybakina Goff, in the final. And I think Rybakina wins the title.
They haven't played each other since 2022.
Well, it's the a second time, I guess, for everything. I don't know what's the head-to-head, but
wow, yeah,
it's going to happen. They're bound to happen.
That's potentially the most interesting final because that's the least predictable option. Rybakina Goff, I would watch that. That would be a good one. I've gone with Swiatek Goff final. Swiatek to win it.
Goff Swiatek.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I will say this: if Swiatek doesn't win it, I think Rybakina's the one I most want to win it. Because then you've got, she's kind of thrown herself back in the mix as a recent Slam champion. And I think when she's playing well and she's a contender, that's really, really good fun to watch. So, I agree. I would be up for Rybakina title, to be honest. I think it's a shame that she and Swiatek are in the same half of the draw. But I would live with a Rybakina title. I don't
Yeah, it's been a while that she's been now a few Grand Slams now that she's won her first at Wimbledon. And I think I could see her winning a Grand Slam that pays off this time, like with ranking points. Because the Wimbledon one wasn't worth anything in that regard. But yeah, I think it would be really good for her to have a Grand Slam that is fully I guess like fully, drawed out, like with everybody in and awarding full ranking points, everything. And she got really close last year as well, like against Sabalenka. So, so
I want to see. I think if she got close, I think there's a bit of a story there of just missing out and then getting it again. Although we've seen a lot of Slam finalists who don't quite turn that around, but I would like to see that for Elena. If we go for the wilder option, who do you think wins a Zhang Qinwen Coco Gauff final?
Coco.
I think I know the answer. Yeah, Coco Gauff experience.
Yeah, I think Coco would be just. She's been there. She's been on top for so long. If Zhang is a surprise finalist, I think Gauff is at the very least gonna try to at least just like, hey, let's see what you can do, and just kind of go in lockdown mode and just wait for Zhang to like make her errors and just like beat herself down in that final, just because of sheer pressure and everything. So I don't think that. And if Zhang is playing lights out, I think Swiatek Gauff can raise her game and match it. And it's probably gonna wear out eventually. I don't think the fire is gonna be there the entire time. So I think it's a very, very low chance that Zhang beats any of these women in the finals. So yeah,
I think I've got John on board on the Emma Navarro train. Seems to be saying that she might. We'll see. I mean, it's her first time in Australia. Weirder things have happened. We've seen Emma Raducanu winning on her debut at a Slam. It's happened. I don't think it's that crazy. I mean, she's older than most, but she's built up. But yeah, that would be a very out there result if Emma Navarro was to win it. Emma Navarro, like, I'm trying to think what the wildest possible final could be, because I was about to joke about it being Zhang versus Krejcikova, because that would be a little bit out of nowhere, but they're both seeds. Raducanu's in the top half of the draw. I was going to go with Navarro Raducanu, but I think they're both in the top half of the draw.
It's Osaka Raducanu in two different sections. I think they are.
Yeah, they're in different halves.
Yeah.
You would go with Raducanu Osaka as the wildest final.
That would be very wild. But if you really want to go super wild, just pick two qualifiers.
That is true, yeah. You could just pick two qualifiers. Fiona Ferro against Brenda Kvitova.
Wow. I don't know how good that would be, to have these two in the finals. Like,
Probably not of a Grand Slam, no.
Yeah.
Raducanu, Osaka, if they were both playing well, yes, please.
Yeah. I think wild, but in the realm of the slightest possibility that you can possibly imagine. I think this one is the most possible and most wild that you could possibly imagine, in my opinion. I think that,
Osaka,
yeah.
Raducanu, yeah. We're having some fun going for wild first round Schneider versus Korpatch final. If I'm Wong versus Katie Bolter. Miles has pointed out that Noshkova versus Bushkova is an interesting first round. Yeah, that's one I've got on. I want to watch. I'm backing Noshkova to make third round. Sigmund Seidel or German final. Building on Germany's success at the United Cup. Unless, of course, you want to have a proper kind of tie-break for it, in which case you want Germany, Italy, and Canada in the mix. Right, we're going way off track, but yeah, that's our Australian Open draw preview after about an hour and 15 minutes. So we've gone with slightly different title winners. Don't think either of us would be too surprised if the other one got it right. Definitely wouldn't be surprised if Rebecca would win. You might be slightly more surprised if Swiatek won.
Me? I don't think so. I just think that Swiatek's draw is hard enough, and there's players in her draw that are like big enough that I'm just kind of raising the alert here, like just to see that it could happen that she loses before reaching the final. But if she does get through the hurdles, I don't see why she wouldn't be able to win this tournament.
Yeah. I would agree. That's going to face Simon. I think she will overcome the hurdles, but I do. My first reaction to that draw was, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
So we'll see. But yeah. So, but we've kind of got ourselves set. I definitely think we've got ourselves some really, really good quarterfinals. I'm actually more excited by your projected quarterfinals than my own. Swiatek, Ostapenko, Rebecca Najong, Hadad Goff, and Krejcikova Sabalenka. One would be lineup. Very, very watchable. All right. Well, Andre, I hope you enjoy the Australian Open. Hopefully you can watch as much of it as possible. I think you'll be watching opposite matches to me. You'll probably be watching all the day ones and I'll be watching all the night ones.
Probably.
But yeah, I mean, is there anything from day one you're particularly looking forward to watching?
Have a look. I just really want to see. Well, I really want to see Fernandez for sure.
Oh yeah, the opener. I might stay up for that one actually.
Yeah. If Haddad Maia is playing, also I want to watch her, but it doesn't look like it. So yeah.
No, she's not playing tomorrow. She's probably playing on Monday.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited to see Fernandez. If you're dropping about in the other matches, like the men's as well, there's Sinner, Djokovic. I want to see like where is that, and obviously the Linette Wozniacki match. I want to see where Wozniacki is at right now with her level.
Wozniacki is definitely the big one for Margaret Court Arena. I think I'm going to be watching Margaret Court Arena for the night session. Although might be worth keeping an eye on seeing what this title's like if Ashley's excited about them. So, well, thanks for coming on, Andre. Really appreciate you doing this. Let's do this again. I would be up for that. Viewers, we will do a full men's draw breakdown. You'll be pleased to hear it won't involve me, but it will involve your friendly ATP expert, especially on the Challenger Tour, Mr. Damien Koost, along with Tom Grant. So Damien and Tom are going to take you through a full men's draw breakdown tomorrow at 1 p.m. GMT. Not going to work out all the different time zones because it's nearly midnight my time. Gosh, I enjoyed that. Time's just flown with you, Andre.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Always exciting to be at the beginning of a Grand Slam.
Yeah, always excited to be at the beginning, and then we'll be thrown right in the deep end of it. So keep an eye. If you are new to the channel, I've seen our subscriber count change a bit today. Keep an eye on for our coverage of the Australian Open. We will be bringing you plenty of live updates throughout the 2 weeks. We'll be watching along with it. I will hopefully be on some of them, and I'm looking forward to enjoying watching the tennis with all you lovely lot. But until then, take care and keep talking tennis.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.